I heard from several people that were interested in the showing and telling of what they have, and I kind of put them in alphabetical order, if for no other reason than just convenience. So that means that Ashley is number one. So
All right.
if you if you would please go ahead with your presentation, I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
You bet.
All right. Hi, friends. Good to see some familiar faces and some new faces. I'm really excited about this meeting. I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody else is showing as well. What I wanted to show is a recent acquisition of mine that came to me in an interesting way, and it itself is interesting, so I just wanted to share it with y'all tonight. So what you see, I'm going to show you the front and the back. This is a jumbo card. It's like a jumbo of jumbo cards. It actually didn't all fit on my scanner. I put the ruler under there so you could kind of see how big it was, but it didn't even capture it all. It's 6.5 by 9 inches. Big, big card. And it is advertising a nightclub and a dinner club and an entertainment venue called The Vapors in the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's actually a national park, but the city is called Hot Springs, and Hot Springs produce vapors, right? So it's a neat name for a nightclub to be called The Vapors. And so you can see it is advertising the club, and it shows the club from the outside and their lobby, their spacious starlight lobby, and then their outstanding entertainment. It shows their stage show there, and then the restaurant that has that stage. So a multi-level theater, it says. So super cool card. And want to tell you just a little bit about the vapors that'll help give some context to what's on the back that I'm going to show you. Okay, so forgive me while I read just a little bit. I'm sorry? Oh, somebody's saying something. Okay, so let me tell you about the Vapors. The Vapors was a nightclub during the last era of illegal gambling in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Upscale entertainment in the style of Las Vegas, featuring well-known acts, distinguished the Vapors from its rival clubs in the area. Built in the summer of 1959 and it opened in 1960, it was built and owned by two seemingly unmatched partners who were business partners. One was a man named Dane Harris. He was a World War II pilot, upstanding American. He went into business to open the Vapors with noted gangster Vincent Oni Madden, who was the owner of the Cotton Club in New York City. So they opened this club down in Vegas, or down in Hot Springs, because we did have illegal gambling. The governor at the time was getting kickbacks from all that gambling, so he wasn't too keen on shutting them down. Anyway, so this Vapors had a casino in it, meeting rooms, a coffee shop, and a two-tier theater with retractable stage. So that was kind of the features of the Vapors. So that's the front side of the card. They got notable entertainers to come play here. Tony Bennett noted in his biography that the first time he ever sang I Left My Heart in San Francisco, for you Californians, first time he ever sang that song was on the stage at Vapors. And so that's pretty cool. Lots of famous people played there. So I'm going to keep you in suspense a little bit longer and tell you how I came to have this card. This card came to me from somebody I kind of know, but not really, but they knew that I collected postcards. And this is really their whole family's collection of decades of postcards that I accumulated. They just gave to me in recent months. And so when I got the cards home and I opened up the card box, this is the first card that popped out at me. And I'll show you why I was so taken with it. It can go to the back. So can you see whose signature that is?
Liberace.
Somebody tell me.
Liberace.
Liberace. Yep. See, it says Liberace here, and then he drew his piano with his famous candelabra drawn there. And it says to Cleta, love. So like Cleta, okay, who is Cleta? Well, Cleta was the grandmother of the man who handed me his family's postcard collection. And so the man that gave it to me was Cleta's grandson, Jim. And Cleta had 3 sons and 1 daughter. All of their names started with M's. And one of her sons, his name was Marlon, Parker was a well-known pianist, and he apparently played regularly at the Vapors as an entertainer. And he was at the Vapors the night that Liberace played. He grabbed what I'm sure was one of these free postcards, promotional postcards they had sitting around everywhere, and had Liberace sign it to his mother, Cleta.
That's funny.
So that was really, really fun. So I wanted to share that with y'all. And that's it.
It's nice, huh?
Oh,
Excellent.
Sorry,
That's awesome.
I don't have any with any celebrity.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ashley. You know, I have a question for you though that I'm
Okay.
curious about. You know, my wife and I had a chance to go to Hot Springs and to the national park and look around a
Oh,
little
good.
bit. This is several years ago, but I always was
Okay.
kind of curious about the town itself. Hot Springs and the
Mhm.
national park seem to be together, and
Yes.
usually that's not the case. I wonder why that is.
Well, I think the park the park and the city are one and the same generally. It became a national park and designated as a national park to preserve the land from which the hot springs come and to make those protected. And the city of Hot Springs is just built on top of and all around and beyond the springs. And so it's really the city of Hot Springs. There's a designated big land area that is the national park protected land. So it's really one and the same. You're right. It's very different from like Yellowstone, which doesn't
Yeah.
have a city in the middle of it. Yeah, but that's what it is. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank
And
you.
I'll tell you, you're welcome. I'm trying to find my meeting controls so I can figure out how to stop presenting. And I've lost it on my two screens. Give me a second.
Just go on
I
the
don't know
top
how
of
to
your
stop.
screen. Move the cursor on the top of your
Oh.
screen. And then you
Thank
will appear.
you. Thank you. All right, let's see. Stop share. Thank you. There we go. All right. Okay.
Oh.
That's my show and tell. Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you, Clarissa.
Oh, you're welcome, Ashley.
Thank you very much, Ashley. That was great and very interesting too. And you answered a question that I was curious about for the longest time. It's a great place and got to see where all the gangsters hung out at the time.
That's right.
Kind of cool.
Y'all come.
Yep.
Y'all come. We'll show you around.
Yep. Clarissa, you're next, if you
Oh,
would,
wow.
please.
Sure. So as you know, I always collect postcard of events. You probably heard of my collection of COVID postcards. And so now, of course, the next event, unfortunately, is Ukraine. So I'm starting collecting some postcard about Ukraine. And I found, I'll show you about 9 postcards. So the first set is postcard from different places, and by Redbubble, you can find them very easily. This one, the first one, I'm really, Elena probably did it for the COVID, and it says we will survive, but I found it that is actually very telling for what they're going through now. So I thought it would be, yes, for COVID, but also for for the war. Make art, no war. This is a piece, and they say the bonsai is a symbol of peace and hope. And so it's made it with Ukrainian flag. We all heard about I need ammo, not a ride. And this is from Tanzania. Somebody used it to make a postcard.
Wonderful.
The other 3, these 3 are all from American artists. And I selected because they all depict their flower symbol, which is a sunflower. And of course, some are sunflower for Putin, have the blood showing from, but it will Ukraine will spring back. I would like to read that. And this is from Elie Wiesel, who is, I don't know if you know, but it was known person around for the Holocaust. And then war is not healthy for children and other living things. And this is Mega Johnson, who has a lot of postcards. She lives in New York. And the last one are very peculiar in the sense that they are not postcard until you make them a postcard. So these are all Ukraine artists, which of course, mailing a bunch of postcards to anybody in the world will be very hard for them, this person. So what they did is that they did a design, but then they sell you the download, so the picture. So you download your picture, and then it's up to you to glue it to a postcard. They sell it as a picture for a postcard, but they sell you the digital version of it. So then I glue it on a piece of cardboard, and as you can see, it went through the mail and send it to myself. That's the best test. Send it to yourself. And that's how I have these three that I found it's very nice and telling about what they're going through. So these are all artisan and this is, you find them in Etsy.
Very nice, very nice.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great, Clarissa. It always amazes me how creative people can be with cards. I've tried a few myself, and sometimes I get myself in trouble with that, but it is a lot of fun and very creative. Thank you very much for showing those to us.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Hal.
you.
Hal, will you take a look, please?
Sure, be happy to. Okay, I have one card I wanted to show, and this is a real photo postcard. It's done by a photographer. You can see he's signed each one at the bottom. It says photo by Unru. And you would think that with city directories and, libraries and telephone books and newspapers and everything, you would think that we would have been able to discover more about this photographer, Unru. We know where he lived. He apparently had a studio and maybe also processing and printing photographs and everything, maybe in the basement, maybe in a back room. I'm not sure. It's long ago. He has disappeared, and the house is still there. It's on one of our main busy streets here in Wichita. But, I've never gone knocking on doors in the neighborhood, and maybe I should, but I should have done that maybe 10 or 15 years ago because, like everything, there's a big turnover in people moving and so forth. But it's a drive-in theater. And this was, it was apparently the first one in Wichita, and it may have been the first one in the whole state. It does say Wichita in the lower left corner, and this photographer's name, Unru, on the lower right corner. It's the 81 Drive-In Theater. It was on Highway 81, north of Wichita. And they said in the newspaper that it could handle 600 automobiles. It was kind of at the edge of town, and I think maybe some of those, I don't know if they would have all had the little box that you put in your window to be able to hear the audio that goes along with the movie or not. But it was a big, beautiful drive-in theater, and from there we had 6 or 7 more around town afterwards. This opened in 1946, and it was around and operating until the 1980s, when it just kind of died. And by then, other drive-in theaters had come and gone too, but then they tore it down, and I'm not sure what's there today. But it's a real photo postcard. It's not postally used, so no clues like that on the back, but I do know that the theater opened in 46. So I think it's safe to say that this is after World War II, and people were hungry to get out and, to do something different. This was all before television, of course, or at least television in Kansas. And it was just something neat to do. And I hope that many or maybe all of you have been to a drive-in theater and know the thrill of sitting in your car and eating popcorn or a hot dog and looking at the screen right ahead and listening from this little window unit that they would put into your window, and you'd roll the window up a little bit so it would hang there. It was fun and neat, and part of life in the early 50s, as all for sure 50s and 60s. But
Oh,
that's my choice for showing you something from Wichita and advertising and theater and all that stuff.
that's great, Hal. You know, two things came to mind when I was watching this. There being a Californian, we used to have a guy named Jesse Unruh here in
Yes.
California. It was a big time politician. I
Yes,
forget all of what he did, but because I was kind of a youngster at the time, but I sure remember that name.
yes,
And
exactly,
and so
exactly.
I don't know whether he had anything to do with or was related to this person in Wichita, but uh,
I just don't either.
yeah,
It's a real mystery still, but I keep telling my smart friends who search newspapers and have all these skills of finding people and everything. And I'm hopeful that someday we'll find out more information.
yeah.
How many other people remember, or have you all gone to a drive-in theater or?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
Good, good. Well,
I still go. I still go.
Okay. Great,
We
great.
still have a drive-in theater in Weslaco, and on Tuesday it's family night.
Yep.
Well, that's fun.
And part
Concord,
of
California too.
Good deal.
part of the fun is smuggling kids into the trunk, but that's a whole different story. I probably
know.
shouldn't say that.
Oh, no. I
Come on,
think that's
Larry.
universal.
That's right. That's right. No, that's
Yeah.
great, Hal. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thanks
Appreciate it.
again.
You bet. Are you in good shape, Mark, or do you want us to go on?
Well, I'm going to beg the indulgence of Clarissa, who really seems to know a great deal about Zoom. And since tomorrow night at the Capital Beltway Club, you're going to be presenting and I'm going to be talking, as we agreed, I took the liberty of sending you my files to your email. And if you're willing, it's only if you're willing, you could download the photos that I sent you there, and I could talk to them. I cannot seem to get it to bring up on my desktop. I do not know why, but if you're willing, Clarissa, you could download it and bring it up, and then I could talk to it. There we go. Okay.
Cool.
Now,
Thanks.
there are actually 4 pictures I sent you. I'll start with this one. So in the spring of 1985, which is 37 years ago, I was a senior at Stanford, and I went to the Overseas Studies program in West Berlin at a time that there still was a West Berlin. West Berlin was a very happening town. Berlin is still today a very happening town. And at the same time, all of us Yanks wanted to go over the border into East Berlin. And the East Berliners, the East Berlin, East German government was happy to take our hard currencies. They let us go over the wall by paying 30 Deutsche Mark, and they would exchange it on a 1-to-1 basis for 30 Ostmark, which is worth basically nothing. And in that one day, we had to spend that money. And as you see here, I actually went over on May Day, 1985, which is a huge, big deal for them. That's May Day, the gigantic celebration. So I took this picture there on May Day, 1985. Can you go on to the next picture, Clarissa, if you don't mind? There's me as a young man right there on the May Day celebration in East Berlin.
Haven't
And-
aged a bit.
Yeah, and you bet. Again, with the 30 Ostmark, Eastern marks in my pocket. And the problem was there's really nothing to spend the money on, okay? Their system of distribution, manufacturing in the East was terrible. Everything you heard was absolutely true. They had this money. The savings rate was actually very, very high because people got paid, but there was nothing to spend the money on. So of course, my objective was, let me go and spend whatever money they gave me on the 1-to-1 conversion basis on postcards. I know that comes as a great surprise. So let's go to the next slide, next picture, if you don't mind, Clarissa. And I said, I'm gonna buy as many postcards, as many stamps as I possibly can, but they would not let me spend on anything that I was not actually going to write and send right there in East Berlin. So I bought a postcard and stamps, and this was actually a couple days later, May 3rd now. I said, all right, I gotta write it, I gotta send it right here. Now this is May 3rd, I wrote a postcard from myself from East Berlin to West Berlin. Dearest Mark, having a blast in der Hauptstadt, which means in the capital city. Wish you were here. Obviously I was there. Love always, Mark. And I mailed it to myself in West Berlin. And I thought there's no way the censors in East Berlin are gonna let this through. If you want, you can even go on to the next slide. And this is what it looks like in the front. Berlin, Hauptstadt der DDR, which means Berlin, capital city of East Germany. It printed it in East Berlin, and I couldn't even spend the rest of my Ostmarks. And I thought, well, I'll never see this postcard again. Well, lo and behold, a few days later, it showed up in my dormitory in West Berlin. Very, very proud of this postcard. I can't believe it actually got to me. I put it in my diary from 1985. And there it stayed in the dark in my trunk that I kept in 1985 until, well, about a month ago, when I took a picture of this and I sent it over to Shav and I said, this is the postcard I want to show everybody for show and tell.
Yeah.
And this is, other than everybody here and myself, no one else has seen this postcard since 1985. And of course, the East German censors that somehow or other let this postcard get through. No one else has seen this postcard since 1985. So that's my postcard for show and tell.
Thank
Great,
you. Thank you
great.
very much.
That's
great.
amazing.
Thank you.
And
Wow.
thank you, Clarissa, for coming to my rescue.
Oh, that was great. I'm gonna write him a note.
Yeah, that's
No problem.
And I still have some of the leftover Eastern marks, Ostmarks in my diary because you just can't spend the darn things. It was, you would order orange juice because it says orange juice on the menu. Sorry, we're out of orange juice. Well, can I have chocolate? Sorry, we're out of chocolate. They didn't have anything.
yeah.
I can sympathize with Mark. I lived for 2 years in Poland, 67 to 69, 1967. And it was the same thing. My parents were giving me the equivalent of $5 a week as a pocket money, or $5 a month even, pocket money. And we couldn't spend them as children because no, there is no pencil. Or no, you can't have color pencil. Or no, we don't have this. There's no candies today.
Yeah.
And it was like this all along. We couldn't spend them.
That's great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Mark. You talk about memories. That's got to bring back a lot of memories.
Can
for
I
you.
say something about that? I was one of the
Yes.
founders of the Berlin program in Berlin, Mark. And I
You
will
were?
send you a story of I worked for overseas studies and I'm fluent in German and married a Berliner. So I will send you an email about all that stuff.
You were a founder of the Stanford program in Berlin.
Yes, one of the
Oh,
founders.
amazing.
I
Wow.
found the villa that they were in, so.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
in
you'll enjoy it.
Sailendorf. Yeah, nice. Oh, that's
You'll
great. I'd
enjoy
love to
my
talk to
history.
you about
I
that.
was a soldier in Berlin also.
Oh my,
I'll
small
send
world.
you- I'll send you that.
That's great, Don. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a coincidence. Adds even more to the fun. That's great, Don and Mark both. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see. Looks like Dan. Dan, I know, has a couple of things that he wants to show us, and so if you'd please do that, that'd be great.
That's not alphabetical, Shav. It should be Nancy first, but I'll go.
All right. Well,
No, I might as well screw up now rather than later. So
well, Cal Poly, you just get mixed up occasionally. Anyway, go ahead.
okay, so and there it is. There's the ice bowl.
Wow.
So this is a card I just bought at Hal's show in San Francisco. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
I just liked it. I mean, it's a great structure. Kind of reminded me of the dirigible hangars at Moffett Field, although it's not symmetrical for some reason. And Shav found out it was at 1805 Alum Rock Avenue, which I looked up, and is now a taqueria at that corner. And the photographer in the lower right-hand corner is Laws, Laws, and he did a lot of real photos like this. And I assume it was just ice skating at this huge ice bowl. And see if I can do this because of Ashley. Let's see if I can.
Was it a former airplane hangar? Do you know?
I know nothing more about it.
Okay.
I just bought it because I liked it.
Oh, me too.
Well, Alum Rock, if I could mention, Alum Rock Avenue is kind of a main street in San Jose, and so no, I'm sure that wasn't the case, Al.
Okay.
And here's another recent purchase. I happen to have a little Liberace collection, Ashley, because he had a house.
Wow.
He had a house where I grew up in Sherman Oaks, California. And this is the house that had the piano-shaped swimming pool in the backyard. And the house was white with black trim. And I went trick-or-treating there one year. And he didn't hand them out. He was probably at a party. But one of his people who worked for him was handing out Tootsie Roll Pops. You got to pick whatever flavor
That's a
you want.
great story.
Yes, it's my Liberace story. He lived on Valley Vista Boulevard, not far from where I grew up. So
Had you planned to show that tonight, or did you?
no,
pull it up after I showed
I
that?
real quickly took a photo of it with my camera and managed to get it on my computer. So it's like I actually know what I'm doing.
That's great.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Over and out.
Okay, great job, Dan. Hey, you talk about going to see Liberace. When I was a kid, we lived close by to Gene Autry, and we used to go to his house for trick or treat, and we'd get a nickel. And that boy, we made many trips to old Gene's house for the nickel.
Well, a nickel would buy you a candy bar.
That's right. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. That's great. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I messed up, Nancy, but you're next.
Okay. I was just gonna say, we knew which house gave out the 5-cent candy bars.
Yeah.
We'd go tearing over to those places and try and sneak twice. Okay, here we go. I didn't want to do it this way.
Oh, cool.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
4-stack boat. Ship.
Titanic.
Perfect, right there.
Titanic, yeah.
Okay, well, we all know that the Titanic sank, and it sank tomorrow 110 years ago. And that's all I'm going to say.
1912, wasn't it?
And I have a great card of it. It's got a nice back that says that was sent through the mail September 16th, 1912 from Times Square in New York. It was sent, it says, friend Stephen, had some time, Carl. And it was sent to Stephen on Hudson Street in Port Jervis, New York. And I particularly like it because it was put through the mail, and it was just 5 months after the sinking. So it's an original Titanic card. This card actually is on eBay right now for a very friendly price. If anybody wants their own copy. And there's some very interesting facts about the Titanic. She set sail on April 11th, 1912 from Queenstown, Ireland, and she went out to sea. And on the 13th, which is today, 110 years ago, the only remarkable thing that happened to her was the fire was put out in one of the rooms where the coal burning room. They had a fire since she set sail. When she did set sail, she caused such a wake that she juggled another ship away from its mooring that almost ran into her in her first 20 minutes at sea.
Wow.
And on the 14th, which is tomorrow, it was a Sunday. The 14th was a Sunday. She struck an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. after having had no less than 6 iceberg warnings from ships that were nearby.
Wow.
It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Never had to, something that never really had to happen. And she sunk at 2:20. At 12:15 on the 15th, they started putting people in lifeboats. Well, no, they didn't. They said they were sinking, and they sent wirelesses out. So that was 40 minutes after she hit the lifeboat. So anyway, that's my little, I'm very lucky to have this card since it's an original Titanic card. I have a lot of repros. My sister's been to Belfast where the Titanic Museum is, and there was a wonderful touring exhibit that came through San Francisco about 12 or 15 years ago.
Yep.
It was fabulous. Anyway, and that's my share. I couldn't leave the Titanic out.
Thank you.
I'm happy my grandfather left Queenstown a little bit earlier.
Wow. Wow.
Missed the boat, Don.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people missed the boat, and then there was a lot of people that got lucky and won a ticket. Ha ha. So it's the stories. There's just hundreds of books on the Titanic, and they're all fascinating, and they've got different information. But
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by it. I think I probably should join the club. Okay, thank you.
Those who don't know, Queenstown is the name of Cope, which is the port of Cork in southwestern Ireland.
Nice.
Thank
nice.
you,
Yeah,
Don.
Mhm.
that was great. Thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you with that, Nancy. I guess I misunderstood and I didn't have it ready to go. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Anyway, we got it, and it's a great postcard. I might be looking on eBay myself for that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah. Look right away. I think it's up in a day or two, but
Yeah,
right now it's like under $50.
well, that's not
That's
too
friendly
bad.
for the Titanic.
Yep.
Is also valuable.
Why are you selling it?
No, somebody else is selling it.
Oh, I thought she was selling hers.
Oh no.
Good for you.
No, I've got it framed.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Okay, so next up we have Joe Spina.
Thank you, everyone. Everything's been so nice, so interesting. As some of you may know, I'm a teacher, 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher in San Mateo. And a little side note before I get into my thing, I just recently was part of a trip as a chaperone with 40 students to Washington, D.C. And we got to go all around all the monuments and pretty much a lot of the museums. And we went to the National Postal Museum. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because in the lobby, kind of off to the side in the lobby, they had 4 postcards. They had a little table set up, and they had 4 postcards that they have standardized. One showing the building as a historical postcard reproduction that they put out a long time ago, because that building used to be the main post office. And then they had 3 other kind of pop culture, kind of new era postcards. And they were just giving those away for free. They had about 200 on the table, and you can pick whichever ones you want, or you can take 10 or 20 of them or whatever. And so I took a stack of them, and I have them in my classroom for some kids if they want them. If I was in San Jose and we were all in San Jose, I'd bring them if we were at a meeting and let everyone have some. But it's unfortunate you can't do that. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Right when I walked in, it was all about postcards right away. So that was pretty. I wasn't expecting that, so I just wanted to share that. I thought of everyone there, and I also sent the club a postcard from downstairs in the post office. They have a postcard shop. Did you receive that?
I'm sorry, I had myself on mute. Yes, I did. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I was downstairs really quick, and I didn't know they had a post office. I only had like 8 minutes left. And I went down there and I filled out a postcard and I mailed it off from there for the club. So that's cool. But anyways, so I just wanted to share that if you're ever in Washington, D.C., that's pretty cool. The National Postal Museum. They really have a great museum. And what I wanted to share tonight is since I'm a teacher, 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher, I'm always trying to incorporate ways for students to write letters. And so I thought, hey, how about a postcard? So I wanted kids, I bought 150 blank 4x6 cards with lines on one side and blank on one side, just basic cardstock paper. And I tested one, like I heard a couple people say tonight, I tested one on myself. I sent Patrick Ford one and they went through the mail. And I put a line on the back and everything and drew a picture on the front and they went through the mail. It was pretty awesome. So then I said, okay, this is a good idea. So I'm going to give one to each kid. And they'll put their line on the back with a marker. And then they can create any picture they want that's history related on the front, or they can do writing. So they could show and tell something from history, any subject they want. And then on the back, the subject, they can write to a friend or family member about history or whatever that was that they were showing on the front. And then they can mail it off. And it ended up being a really great project the kids did. And what I found was an interesting discovery. They ended up coming up to me a few days after they all mailed them off and said, hey, we have our selfies. And I was saying, oh, what are you talking about? And what they were interested in doing is taking pictures of themselves at the mailbox or at the post office or at their apartment, mailing the postcard. And I never thought of that. I don't think many of you have thought about that. It's something this generation of 10, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, they know that's what they do. They take pictures of themselves, right? And acts, selfies. And they were taking selfies. So I said, okay, that's cool. So send me your selfies in email. And then every day at class, I'll show the selfies. So we ended up showing selfies of kids mailing, and they like that. And it's pretty awesome. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of a couple of cards. And then I'm going to show you a couple of them mailing their postcards. Pretty cool. Can you guys see this presentation?
Historical postcards.
Yes. So I made a little PowerPoint here. Students created postcards that show and tell the past. The first one here was by a student, and she's very artistic. And she wanted to share a little bit of the history of the Lion King story. But it's the original telling of the Lion King story that goes back to the Middle Ages in Africa, in West Africa. And so it would be called Sundiata the Hungarian Lion. So she drew that with watercolor and pen. And then on the back, she didn't at this point complete the postcard on the back when you see the back, but I wanted to take a picture anyways, just for the presentation. But she ended up putting an address and a stamp on it. And then she ended up, mailing it off. So I thought it was a really great job. And then everyone put a Sharpie line on the back. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
This next one, this girl wanted to, this student wanted to do United States expansion. So westward expansion in the covered wagon. And she used colored pencil and pen. It was pretty good. In this particular one, she sprayed a fixative over the card so that it wouldn't, rub off or anything. And she mailed it to her friend. I thought this was the most creative card. This particular student did a collage. So they were studying West African history, Middle Ages, and they found images from today that relate to that history from West Africa. And they did a really nice job, and it mailed very well. It stayed very strong. She glued it, and it just was really cool. This card was really artistic and nice. I really appreciated her effort on this one. This student is a Mandarin Immersion student. We have a couple of classes, about 50 kids on the campus who are Mandarin speaking, or they're learning Mandarin, and it's an immersion program. And so this student was writing about African culture in the Middle Ages, because I could see that it says the Bantu River, and they did it in Mandarin. I covered up the address, so that's why there's a green paper there, because I didn't want to show the kid's address or whatever, so I covered it up. But the address was there, and to their family. And I thought that was cool. I didn't expect that. When I walked by this student's desk, I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. But the kid had the whole thing right there in Mandarin. So it was kind of cool, telling the history of West Africa, Bantu River.
Amazing.
Yeah, I thought that one was really interesting.
Ah.
I didn't expect that one at all. This student is Vietnamese American, 13-year-old, and has shared that this student's grandfather was in the Vietnam War. As a American, and as an American soldier. And so this is another one that I was really fascinated by. Anytime this student can make connections between Vietnam and America or any other culture, he does so. And so here he was telling the history of the baguette in French and Vietnam cultures and how they all mix because of the Vietnam War. And he sent it to his family. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. So he told about the baguette. Pretty cool, really cool. These are the mailbox selfies that they started doing on their own naturally. And I thought this was something interesting I never thought about. I don't think you've thought about this. You may have, but I don't think so. We're not thinking like this, older people, but younger people, you know, they're thinking about taking pictures of their acts. And so this is normal to them to take a picture of a mailbox selfie. And so these started coming in, and many of them, they were taking pictures of their faces and everything. I just didn't want to share those with you. But I shared the ones where they just showed their hands. And so, you know, we would share these in class the following day, and kids want to see the other kids in the act of mailing. And it's very profound. It's pretty interesting. So it really causes a lot of discussion. And kids are mailing from their homes, from mailboxes, from the post offices, from their apartments and townhouses. One kid even got the coveted mailbox selfie, but it was handing it over to the mail person, the mail carrier. And the father took a picture of the kid handing the mail to the mail carrier, the letter carrier. And I told that kid, if anyone gets that shot, that's really good. And that kid, sure enough, came with that shot. And these are two other ones.
That's great.
So very interesting what this generation is doing. They are aware of postcards, of the act of mailing. That's something that's important to them. Still, a lot of people may discount that. They also, the students that I have, and I'm seeing 140 of them, they're educated to the point where they're not saying snail mail. Like a lot of people you'll hear say snail mail, because it's really not snail mail. They come to me and say, hey, the letter arrived in 3 days. And that's fast. You know, the letter arrived 3 days, 4 days, and they're telling me that, and they're not associating the mail with snail mail, to what many people believe. And they're associating with, hey, it made it pretty good in 3 days. And not just locally. Some of the, you know, they're aware that mail travels in all parts of the country and the world, and especially in this country in all corners. And they believe that it's not snail mail. Many of them, we've had this discussion, that they think it's very efficient service and it's working very well. And I agree, you know, it's something that's interesting. So I just want to share that. So thank you all very much.
You bet. Thank you, Joe. And by the way, you know, even though we complain about it, it's a heck of a bargain to send a letter 3,000 miles away or wherever it's going. For the amount of money that we're paying, we get a heck of a bargain.
Yes. It's a tremendous service, and I speak with Patrick Ford about this often. They're using LLVs, those long life vehicles, right? Those trucks. Yep. And those trucks were designed to get over any type of terrain, and they were heavily tested by the Grumman Corporation. They went through big trials in the early 80s, and when those trucks were made, they're efficient. They move everywhere. And if we never think about that, but the mail's getting to all types of different areas in this country, and it's often in 3 days, 3 or 4 days. Now there has been hiccups where mail will come a week or two, like, you know, or there'll be times where it could come later. But overall, if you mail something, I'm telling you, it's coming in 3 or 4 days, like, you know, you may know. And I don't know, these kids really pick up on that, you know, and so it's a good thing for the future.
You bet. Thank you very much, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right, so we'll go on to Damaris.
Shop?
Yes, sir.
Could I just, I've got the postcards that Joe received, and I can show them real quick because I don't know if Joe's got them. And so I could just follow up and kind of enhance Joe's story. So let me do that real quick here.
Yeah, I was able to give Patrick one of each of the 4 that they're putting out on their desk, on their table there in the lobby.
There we go.
As an exhibit to take.
So right there, that's one of the postcards. So it's a woman deciding whether or not she wants to, go that. All right, so she's deciding whether or not out of town. So this, and then this was shows the Smithsonian National Museum. So that's one of the postcards. And then this is another one, a couple of people playing guitar. And then this is I'm not sure what the name of that stringed instrument is. And then it says down here, duet of two youths. Both are creating together and alone, but connected globally. And the art of music and dance. So there you go. And then this is supposed to be like that. And it's showing a love coming out of a backpack and something about the journey, the human right. Refugees face many challenges and obstacles, finding a new place to rebuild their lives and future and let their journeys be safe ones. So that's refugees. And then here's the Washington, DC. So the original Washington, DC post office, which is now the Postal Museum. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah, that's the museum now.
A reproduction of the postcard of Washington, DC post office. So those are the postcards that are right there when you leave, that they're giving out to people. So postcards are in the forefront of the thought of the Postal Museum. And then this is the original postcard that Joe sent to test out how postcards are going to work. So I have it saved in this special thing, and then he drew a special picture there and autographed it. That's the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So there you go. And there is the rest of the story.
Thank you,
right.
Patrick.
All right.
That's
great.
awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
That's a lot of fun. It's
And-
amazing that they're just handing those cards out, man. I wish I was back there to grab some. That's pretty cool.
There's hundreds of them, you know, and down below, if you're ever there in the basement, kind of what's down below is the post office. They have a post office in there, and it's, you know, no one's in there except one employee, and you can mail things off right from there.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thanks very much to Joe and to Patrick for that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And now we have Damaris.
I've collected over the years a few of these crossword puzzle postcards. This one happens to say, if it were not for a very high lady, I would stick my hand on a 6-letter word that begins in G, with a G.
Damaris,
I have no idea what that is.
we're not seeing the card.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to do that then. Okay, let me try something else. Crap. Okay, this one, let's see. Is
We can see it. Bring it down a little. There you go.
okay. This is the one that says whatever the word begins with a G. I have no idea what the G is because I don't speak French.
Well, excuse your French.
I Google Translate. And this one is, Maggie, if you can find the right word, my Kindle is worth 1,000 pounds. Well, 1,000 pounds on today's market is $1,312. But his kilt is a puzzle, crossword puzzle.
That's cool.
And then there's the other crosswords, which is basically crosswords. Nothing new to us. We're experts. Okay, let's see. And here's, this one says, my text is from the book of Job, 10 down, 14 across. When I looked it up, it was sin.
Very good.
And then There's some others like this that have children on them. But I didn't have time, I couldn't read it to translate the French. Most of what I have, it was made in France.
Wow, I had no idea that the crossword cards, I guess there's no subject that hasn't been covered on postcards. It's just amazing.
And this is a Tuck postcard about the postcard, the crossword craze. I don't know if you can see that better. But anyway, there's a set of 6 of these Tuck postcards. And I didn't know I had all 6, but I do. But that's my presentation.
That's great. Thanks, Damaris. That's great.
You're welcome. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to do that.
Oh, don't, that did just fine. Seem fine. Anybody have any comments or questions or anything that we haven't covered? Please say so now. Otherwise, we've reached the end, and I hope that you're feeling better, Damaris. You look like you need some maybe a drink or something and just be able to get a good night's sleep.
It's already almost, it's 10:15 here.
I know it is. I know it's late. I know it's late.
Way past my bedtime.
Thank you very much to everybody for coming. I appreciate it. And if there's anything that I can do to be of further service, let me know. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time at our hybrid meeting. And I'm going to be bugging Mr. Ford on that to find out how we need to get this thing set up. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming, everyone.